in conversation with Helene Usherwood and Elizabeth Theobald. And we're continuing our series of discussions around supporting candidates either into their first non-executive director role or indeed to develop their portfolio career of non-executive director roles. So thank you for both joining and welcome.
Hello.
Thanks, Nicki.
I'd like to ask you both to explain a little bit more about what a portfolio non-executive director career actually is. And if I decided that was something I wanted to embark on, how would I balance those non-exec roles within my portfolio?
Sure. I think we've seen, so when I started eons ago, I don't think anybody really sort of mentioned portfolio career. It seems to have been something that has gathered a lot of pace and speed over the last sort of 10, 15 years. And I think a lot of people have recognised that actually there is an opportunity to build what we call a portfolio career, which is to carry a number of non-executive director roles or trustee roles or governor roles, a mix of both paid and unpaid positions, and do that work. And it might be that they also do that alongside some kind of consultancy work or not. And it's an opportunity to perhaps take a step back from the really busy executive day job and be able to contribute to organisations in a completely different way, but still utilising those skills and experience that you've gained in your executive career. So in my experience, people with a portfolio do try and balance out maybe different sectors, maybe different levels of time commitment. Some might be paid, some may be unpaid in terms of the non-executive element. And we say about trying to achieve balance because actually if you can continue to build and develop skills throughout your non-executive career, that makes you more marketable to a broader range of organisations in the future as well. So it's about continual development and yet utilising some of those skills and experience that you've gained from your executive career. And it's that balance in your portfolio which will help you take those next steps further. I don't know if Elizabeth, you want to sort of make any further comment on that?
I think, as you say, it's a really interesting kind of newish trend, which allows people to view their expertise and career differently. No one has a job for life anymore. And this is almost the uber example of that, where, you could have kind of a number of things going on, a number of different groups of people and businesses at different stages of their growth and development, which keeps things really interesting, keeps your perspective fresh. You might be working on startups and established companies and whatever. So I think it's a real kind of, for somebody who's highly experienced and highly developed board member already, it's a way to continue to develop, to continue to have fresh thinking, to be right on the kind of cutting edge of developments and business development as they happen. So I think it's a really interesting thing for people to do. And I guess the people who seem to do it most successfully are those who keep themselves relevant and current and are involved in a number of very different things so that it kind of feels fresh and buzzy, in the way that they approach these things, and they bring the kind of creativity from the startup to a very established company and vice versa, and you get that cross-fertilization. So really exciting kind of a way to go. Difficult to build a fully paid portfolio. I think, more usual, I think we've seen in people who've come from a very stellar kind of, well-known branded kind of commercial background, more difficult to do, I think, if you in the main have had a public sector or a not-for-profit career, unfortunately, because of the way that sectors are viewed, unless you have a very in-demand skill set, for example, I don't know, outsourcing, let's say local authority contracts or something at that point, you might have a really marketable skill set for a company who wants to then start providing those services or be able to tender to local authorities. So that's just a random example there, but you get what I mean. It's a real kind of variety, and I think it's a very interesting mix for people to go down that route if they're lucky enough to be able to do that in a paid capacity. Otherwise, what we see is people when they're kind of retired or semi-retired, as Helen says, they might have a bit of consultancy work and then a number of voluntary paid roles, and that tends to be much more about kind of passion and getting involved in different things whilst using their expertise to continue to feel that they are adding value to society. So really different reasons for doing that.
I think also with that portfolio balance as well, you do see quite a variety of different organisations, from the very locals about that contribution to your local community to national organisations where it's a much bigger platform from which you're working. But as Elizabeth says, I think when you achieve that balance, you can really share an awful lot of ideas and thinking between those different sectors. So yes, some of them might invariably be passion projects for that individual, real sort of motivation, whereas others it might just be about the platform and the focus of that particular organisation's work as well. So there are so many different opportunities out there in the market, and this is where we always try and encourage people to think about where they're applying to. You very quickly, I think, as you progress on your NED journey, identify the types of organisations that are going to be of interest from a personal motivation point of view. But I think if you're trying to achieve a portfolio, don't close off any doors too soon. I think if that's your ultimate ambition to get to.
And really think about practicalities as well. I mean, most kind of NED roles would be 1 or 2 days a month, but actually most of these things have peaks and troughs throughout the year. Depends what's happening in that business. If they're going through a period of massive growth, or unfortunately, if they're having a downturn, there will be a lot more kind of time that needs to be taken. So with a portfolio of things, I think that becomes slightly trickier to manage, because the board roles won't be kind of, the meetings might be regular, but actually when your skill set and your advice is needed for the CEO or whoever it might be, it could be at very different times, and not always kind of something you can anticipate or diarise for in advance.
And also it's just simple things like checking when the board meetings actually happen, because I've had numbers of candidates who hold portfolios going, I can't apply for that because actually it's the same board day meeting as my other job, so it's just not going to work logistically. So I think in our field we find that those dates, that kind of information is readily available up front, sort of a year in advance, so it's something that you can quickly and easily sort of determine.
That's really good advice. Thank you very much.